Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I do appreciate you being with me so very, very much. Uh, I didn't mention it Monday, and I apologize for that. I hope that you have the families of those students killed in the most recent plane crash. What a horrific, horrific situation. I remember many, many years ago, uh, a plane full of students, I think it was Wichita, from Wichita, Kansas. Um, another, I don't remember if it's the same one. I remember a plane crash, students from Oklahoma State University. You know, for young people to be in such a horrific crash, I mean, it's bad enough for anyone. I'm not saying otherwise. But, here are young people starting out in their life, excited about their education, excited about their future, and some horrific event like that takes place and snuffs them out. It's just so sad. So I hope that you will join me in offering up prayers to the Lord for comfort for those families. Um, I cannot imagine being a student, I'm sorry, a parent of a student and receiving word that my child had been killed in a plane crash. I just cannot fathom that. So, okay. I hope that you have lifted up prayers for those people. All right. Happy Wednesday morning. Back to our study of Daniel chapter 12. The reason I'm spending so much time on Daniel chapter 12, ladies and gentlemen, is because Daniel chapter 12 is about the end of the age harvest, the end of the age resurrection. All right? And because Jesus in Matthew chapter 13, when he talks about the harvest, which is the Feast of Sukkot, cited Daniel chapter 12, verse 3. So there's no way in this world that we could be proper students of the Word and dichotomize between Daniel chapter 12 and Matthew chapter 13 and the doctrine of Sukkot. Because Sukkot was, remember, the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Ingathering, the Feast of Lights, the Feast of the Joy of the Nations, and on it goes. All of these are integral, interrelated, and critical issues surrounding the Feast of Sukkot. I've said this before, but I'll say this again. In my fellowship of my youth, I never, ever, ever, not once, ever heard a minister develop Daniel chapter 12. I never, not once, heard the connection between Daniel 12 and Matthew 13. If I did, I've forgotten it. I've never, not once in all of my early upbringing, I know my dad didn't because my father had no understanding, pardon me, whatsoever of the significance of Israel's feast days. Totally ignorant of those things. Doesn't mean he was a bad person. Simply means he was ignorant of those things. Thank God for God's grace. So anyway, so all of these things were totally brand new to me when I began discovering the significance of the feast days of Israel, and particularly Sukkot, because it represented, foreshadowed, symbolized, typified the end of the age harvest / resurrection. Now, there's a whole lot more that I could say on Daniel chapter 12, verse 2 and verse 3. But I want to focus now on Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. And now you, Daniel, seal up the vision of this book even until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. My goodness gracious, what a passage. Now, I'm going to focus on one particular aspect of this text this morning. Daniel, I've just told you about the Great Tribulation. Okay, folks, remember, the 144,000 would go through, that is, Revelation chapter 7, verse 14, Revelation chapter 14. The 144,000 would live through, they come out of the Great Tribulation. Wonder where John got his idea of the Great Tribulation. Oh, from Matthew 24:21, yes. But guess what? From Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 as well. I think it's absolutely untenable. I think it is absolutely facetious to say that the Great Tribulation of Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 was in the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. Just doesn't work. So anyway, here is Daniel predicting Great Tribulation and resurrection. Well, Revelation chapter 11 talks about the time of the dead that they should be judged, the time that the prophets, your servants, should be rewarded. That's Daniel chapter 12, verse 13. Revelation chapter 20, verse 10 and following. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God's great white throne, and the books were open, and the dead were judged out of the books. That's Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. So here is Daniel, who is writing in the 6th century BC. I categorically reject the idea that Daniel was written during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, and that he spoke of the events of Antiochus Epiphanes, except in Daniel chapter 8. I freely admit that. I freely acknowledge that in Daniel chapter 11, he predicts the events of Antiochus Epiphanes up to a certain point, and then the focus shifts to the ascendancy of the Roman Empire. I won't go into that this morning. Point of fact is, I fully agree that Daniel spoke of the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. I categorically disagree that that's what he talked about in Daniel chapter 2, or Daniel chapter 7, or Daniel chapter 9, or Daniel chapter 12. His focus is on the time of the end. Does he include the time of the end of Antiochus Epiphanes? Yes. How do I know that's the time of the end of Antiochus and the end of the Grecian Empire? Well, because it says so. Daniel chapter 8, verse 26. Therefore, the end, therefore, or in that passage, is defined for us as the days of the end of the Grecian Empire. That end is not in Daniel chapter 12 or chapter 7 or Daniel 9 or whatever. Okay, so with this background, here's Daniel predicting great tribulation, resurrection, righteous shining forth. Oh, by the way, and the books being opened, and the dead being judged out of the books, and the righteous rewarded and preserved. Daniel was told, Daniel, seal the book until the time of the end. But you see, that's not the only time in Daniel 12 he's told to seal the book. Daniel chapter 12, Daniel says, I heard, but I did not understand. And then I said, oh my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? The end of what things? Great tribulation, resurrection, the righteous shining forth. What shall be the end of these things? In other words, what's the goal? What's the end? When will this stuff be fulfilled? And he said, go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. You are going to die, Daniel. In other words, it won't be fulfilled in your day. It's at the time of the end. Well, that means that Daniel will not live until the time of the end. And then you shall arise to your lot, to your inheritance. When would Daniel rise to the inheritance? Daniel chapter 12, verse 2, time of the resurrection. Revelation chapter 11, verse 15 and following, the time of the dead that they should be judged had arrived. The time of the dead and the prophets for them to be rewarded had arrived at the time of the destruction of the city where the Lord was crucified. And what city is where the Lord was crucified? I have people tell me commonly, fairly commonly, Jesus was not crucified within Jerusalem. I never said that. And Daniel never said that. And Revelation did not say that. It says the bodies of the two witnesses would lie in the street of the city where the Lord was crucified. Well, Hebrews chapter 13 tells us, verse 14, that Christ was crucified outside the gate. Outside of the gate of what? Well, he wasn't crucified outside the gate of New Jersey or New York. He wasn't crucified outside the walls of Rome. He was crucified outside the gates of one city, only one city. And you know what city that was. But what's the point? Daniel, go your way till the time of the end. The book is sealed until the time of the end. You're going to die. You're going to sleep with your fathers. But you will arise to your inheritance at the time of the end. In the meantime, twice, the book is sealed. Now then, let's go to Revelation. Got to hurry here. Revelation, as all scholars agree, I don't know of a single scholar who disagrees with this. Revelation repeats, reiterates, reemphasizes, refocuses on the prophecies of Daniel. Remember, on Great Tribulation, resurrection, rewarding of the prophets, the time of the end. Daniel, seal the book. It's not at hand. It's not in your lifetime. Now, Revelation chapter 22, verse 10. John, what has he just seen? Oh, the vision of the resurrection at the end of the age. The judgment of those written in the book and delivered. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. Daniel has been told about the end of the age, the time of the inheritance. And here is John in Revelation repeating every single one of the major constituent elements of Daniel chapter 12. But John is told, do not seal the vision of this book. Why? For the time is at hand. Now look, some former preterists say, well, the time is always at hand. You know, God is always around us. Folks, that is nonsense in the context of Daniel 12 and Revelation 22. Because the time of the end was not always around Daniel. Daniel, you're going to die. And the book is sealed until the time of the end. Daniel, it's not for your day because you're going to die. So the coming of the Lord, the judgment, the resurrection, The righteous shining forth was not at hand, was not near, was not somehow mystically, metaphysically, spiritually always at hand. That is utter nonsense. In direct contradistinction to that, John was told, do not seal the vision. What vision? It's one vision, ladies and gentlemen. And it doesn't say the beginning of fulfillment is at hand. No. It says the vision. One vision. The fulfillment of that vision was at hand. So from Daniel, 6th century BC, until Revelation, I'm just going to round the numbers off, okay? I'm not trying to be chronologically accurate here. Let's just say 500 years, just for illustration purpose. From Daniel to John was 500 years in his prediction of Great Tribulation, resurrection, end of the age. Daniel sealed the book. It's not for your day, not for your time. It's far off. Seal the book. John, 500 years later, was instructed, do not seal the book. The vision is at hand. Now look, folks, I'm sorry. For all of those people say, well, it's always at hand. It could happen at any moment. Please forgive my bluntness. That's nonsense. If Daniel's 500 years from Daniel to John was not at hand, fulfillment was not at hand, then it is absolutely illogical. The math doesn't work. To say, well, I know that John was told do not seal the book because the time was at hand. And I want to tell you what, here we are 2,000 years later. I'm telling you what, right now, it's at hand. Argumentum ad desperatum. Folks, it doesn't work. That means the fulfillment of all revelation. You know, John was told at the beginning of the book, write about things that have been, the things that are, and the things that are about to take place. Well, you can't make 2,000 years later about to take place. And you can't make 2,000 years later fit into do not seal the book, for the time is at hand.